In self-knowledge, being is the knowing. As Sri Bhagavan has instructed, in self-knowledge, or self-realization as we call it, there are not two selves, one to know or not know another. Self-knowledge is non-dual, free from the pairs of knower and the thing known. So it is not the relation of knowing, as is found in that which is conceived or perceived. Indeed, what can you perceive of your being? What can the senses tell you about it? Or what can be conceived of being? What thought can there be for the self? Bodiless you are. How could anything pertaining to the body define or confine you? The unknown knower of all that is known, as the Upanishad says, of yourself. What thought, what mode of thinking, what state of mind could possibly pertain to you in your real being? As long as one's true nature is not known, there will be the tendency to conceive of oneself as being in some kind of state, waking, dreaming, deep sleep, an embodied state, a disembodied state, life and death. And then hearing of self-realization, there will similarly be the conception that it is a state, something to be attained anew, or an event that is yet to occur. But if there be knowledge of yourself, then the natural state, sahaja, innate state, natural state, is you, is yours. And you are not awake, you are not dreaming, you're not asleep. You're not being born or dying. You are not in an ignorant state. And you're not in an enlightened state. For being is not a state, an event, a thing, an activity. Being, the self, which is Brahman, the vast absolute, is quite transcendent, innately, of all such differentiation. It is in nothing, and nothing is in it. If we conceive of something, it is only in it. But if we do away with imagination by the power of inquiry to know the truth of ourself, then it is in nothing, nothing is in it. It is not doing anything, and nothing occurs to it. Being, the reality of the self, is perpetually silent. It is the unborn, and for the unborn, there is never any creation. For that which is devoid of creation, there is no destruction. Being has no alternative. It is as it is for all eternity, and in this lies the truth of non-duality. One without a second. one without a second. So in this, being is knowing. Make the earnest attempt to know yourself, inquiring, who am I? It does not make a difference what seems to come to your senses or your mind. For whom are these? Seek to know yourself. Who am I? In this way inquire. What happens? We can say the unreal ceases. It ceases because it never came into existence. What is unreal? Every notion from the belief of an existent individual entity or ego down to the belief in a formed, externalized, objective world. So the unreal vanishes. Or we may say, because it's unreal, nothing has vanished. But truth stands shining, self-revealed, in its own light. And in this, being is knowing. We cannot say of the self, I know it, or I do not know it. There is no such entity as I, distinct from the self. How is this truth known? In this, being is knowing. Inquire within yourself. Know yourself by your own light. To attempt to determine your nature by something that is not your nature, well, that will undoubtedly fail. So how would it be possible to know yourself through the thoughts, or through the senses, through things mental or bodily in character? But if inquiring to know who you are deeply, you find that you are bodiless, without a mind, and with nothing to be called I, the undifferentiated, immeasurable existence that remains knows itself. It doesn't just start to know itself. The knowledge is innate and therefore without beginning and end. What then happens in self-realization? We cannot say anything happens, but the very root of all the imagined bondage and ignorance and suffering is vanished. In other words, when bound, we yearn for liberation. When in ignorance, we rightly seek true knowledge. Yet in that true knowledge, we find ignorance never had a basis. Illusion had no start. We were never actually bound. Therefore, rather than think in terms of unrealized and realizing, bondage and liberation, it is better to abide in the steady knowledge of being, as being is. And for that we can say, the real ever is, the unreal has never come to be. The conclusion about this is seen by the knowers of truth.